Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We're going to be jumping into the SCP universe here with the Exploring series. I've got another video here that was requested by one of my YouTube members. This is SCP-2922 Notes from the Under, again by the Exploring series. Links will be down below, as always, in the description to the original video without my commentary interaction and to the Exploring series channel. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to go over there and give it a like. And if you enjoy the content the Exploring series puts out, and you're not yet subscribed to him, please do me a favor, go over there and hit that subscribe button on his channel. Give the man some love, definitely deserves it. If you'd like to join us as I do these reactions live, like I'm doing right now with my YouTube members, we'd love to have you guys come in, hang out, join us in our conversations. There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube member benefits, tiers, etc. that I offer. You can get early access to videos, priority any kind of reaction requests, Discord members channels. So yeah, check all that out. If you've been around the channel for a while and want to take your sport to the next level, that is one way to do it. But with all that said, let's jump in the video. Again, this is SCP-2922 Notes from the Under by the Exploring series.
SCP-2922 Notes from the Under. I've talked about the afterlife quite a bit throughout this series. From the endless, hellish existence of SCP-2718 to the really trippy realm of death in the End of Death canon. I
don't think I've watched the End of Death yet. Maybe I have. I don't remember. There's so many like death and afterlife ones. I would need kind of a brief like recap of it, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I was just gonna say there's been so many, you know, SCP tales about the afterlife and death and what can happen after. And the one that always sticks out in my mind is the, I don't remember what the SCP number is because I'm just bad at remembering the stuff I got, but the tale where the O5 council member dies and they like try to resurrect him, and so like he experiences like quantum entanglement and like can feel every cell and every part of his being that has been separated and like eaten and digested and broken down, and he can like feel all of that until his body gets like reanimated. Like, I'm good. I think I'd rather stay dead. You know what I'm saying? I think I would rather stay dead.
The idea of the afterlife has been written about for thousands of years by people from every walk of life. So it makes sense that the SCP universe would have numerous different approaches to it. Death and the question of an afterlife is an interesting concept, and that brings us to another interesting SCP, 2922. When given the opportunity to learn about what comes after death, the Foundation is of course going to leap at the chance,
of course they
with
will,
all the tactlessness and coldness they can muster. SCP-2922 is a method of communication from a human mind to a telephone that is not greatly understood by the Foundation. When someone is implanted with this method, they can call a specific phone number at any time.
Interesting. So, what exactly is this specific method? Is it like an actual object that they can implant in someone's brain? And then, yeah, when they think of something, it can be like communicated through this telephone? Or like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was originally developed by a corporation as a novelty smartphone app, under the assumption that the natural electricity of the brain was capable of initiating these phone calls.
Sounds kind of like a twist on like the Neuralink system or something, you know?
Somehow. Of course, what's actually happening is some form of telepathy, and the app was never released. Exactly how a person gets implanted with the SCP is never specified.
Okay.
And although the assumption is that it's some sort of computer chip,
yeah,
it is odd that they would have been using brain chips for a novelty app.
Right.
Regardless, although it started as an app, the designated number to receive calls can be a landline instead of a cellular phone. Currently, that designated phone number for 2922 to work is assigned to a landline phone controlled by the Foundation.
Of course.
And a member of something referred to as Project Corbinic must be on hand 24 hours a day to answer any incoming calls.
Project Korbanek. I don't know why, but for some reason that sounds familiar. And I don't think it's something from the SCP universe. It sounds familiar from some other movie or book or something that I've read. I don't know. Anyway.
We'll be hearing a lot more about Project Korbanek as we go on. As expected, the Foundation had to test out this telepathic phone business, but instead of slapping a brain chip onto a D-class, a Foundation researcher volunteered for the project.
Interesting.
Dr. Janet Spiegel. As a
Janet Spiegel, isn't that name sounds familiar as well? She's been in some other things before, hasn't she?
Right now, Janet is located in an extra-dimensional realm. Despite what you might be thinking, 2922 didn't actually send her there, as she was killed in a car accident after being implanted.
Maybe.
2 hours later, the Foundation received a phone call on that designated phone from Janet. The Foundation doctor that picked up the phone was understandably confused, especially after Janet verified her identity and tells her that she had just died in a crash. Surprisingly, Janet understands that she's dead immediately and says that she's naked in the middle of a desert. She also states that she's truly dead and that she's never leaving this place, but she's going to take some time to adjust. The Foundation attempts to trace the call to no avail.
That would be such a strange sensation, just like not even just being dead, right? But like being dead, realizing you're dead, but also then realizing that you have a connection still to the living world, right? You couldn't necessarily physically be there, but like you'd still communicate with people you care about, you know? And they could communicate back to you. So it's like you're not really gone, but you are. I don't know. That would be so strange.
Since the Foundation has someone who is definitely dead in our world and yet still conscious in some other existence, the O5 Council establishes Project Korbanek to use Janet in order to understand the world she's inhabiting. In Arthurian legend, Korbanek is the mystical home of the Holy Grail.
That might be where it's from Arthurian stuff, because I dig, again, I've talked about this a lot about, you know, different mythologies, and Arthurian stuff is one of the ones that also is something that's very much fascinated me, the whole Knights of the Round, etc. So that might be where I'm getting it from.
And the birthplace of Sir Galahad. The Council presumably thinks they found the Holy Grail of anomalies, true information about the afterlife. The interviews with Janet continue.
Would that really be the Holy Grail anomalies, though? Right? I feel like the Holy Grail anomalies would be something more along the lines of like actual understanding of reality, you know, etc. Because like, I don't know, I feel like in the SCP universe, death is just another part of a different reality, and with all these, I guess it depends on the canon you're talking about there, right?
She says that the sky there is very dark, with black clouds and no stars, although there are 3 moons. She says that it doesn't feel like nighttime though, and ponders if there even is a daytime and nighttime here, since she hasn't seen a sun at all. There's no wind, no sounds, no animals, and no other people. Janet can still breathe though, as she has a body identical to her body here on Earth, but she doesn't feel any pain, even hunger. She asks the doctor if she can speak to her husband, still alive here, and the doctor says he'll bring it up with the council. Janet...
I forget again what the SCP number is, but this is giving me vibes of another SCP story about someone who was transported to like an alternate dimension where there was like some kind of like shadow creature that was chasing her down, and like she also didn't feel hunger, and it was some like abandoned, like destroyed, deserted world.
It plans on walking in a straight line in one direction until she finds something other than sand. She eventually calls back 5 days later, stating that she's seen some freaky stuff and that she's not tired or hungry yet at all. She was getting to the base of some mountains when she found another life form, a primate walking on 2 legs, larger than the mountains. She guesses it was about 2,000 meters high,
Good Lord.
which would make the creature over a mile in height. The creature had matted black fur all over, with two glowing white eyes like searchlights. She doesn't think it had a mouth, and apparently out of curiosity, the creature stepped on her. Presumably, she was utterly smashed into the ground, but she says that it hurt like hell for a couple minutes, meaning she can feel pain here, but her skin and bones put themselves back together.
Interesting.
The primate wandered off into the desert, and Janet spotted a camp nearby with hundreds of naked people huddled up together. Some of them are buried waist up in the ground, and Janet believes that they buried themselves due to looking for a place to relax while here. She then tells the doctor that she's provided the Foundation with information they'd never imagine of having, and all she wants in return is to talk to her husband.
Bro, that's the afterlife. Like, how weird and boring would that be, right? Like, you're just some kind of figure roaming around a desert. There's no food or anything, and like you can experience like pain and being killed, but you don't actually die or being killed. Like, it almost sounds like she's in purgatory. You know what I'm saying? Like the in between the afterlives or something like that.
The O5 Council, however, stated that the only people she can talk to are Project Corbinic personnel, as this is extremely sensitive information. Janet asked them to hire her husband onto the project,
Right.
but since he's a civilian with an art history degree, it would never happen. She swears and hangs up.
I'd probably be the same way. I'm like, look, bro, all right, I've cooperated with you guys enough. If you want any more information, you're gonna do what I want.
When she briefly calls back again later, she says that a wagon came to the human camp, driven by a guy in a white robe and a skeletal horse, implying that she's now integrated herself within the camp. The wagon driver told the camp that they are to be taken to the Elysian Fields.
Oh.
The Elysian Fields, or Elysium,
Greek mythology,
is an afterlife
Greek,
concept
yeah.
among the ancient Greeks, where those chosen by the gods for their heroic lives
Yeah.
would rest after death in paradise.
Kind of similar to like the Greek version of Valhalla, but you don't necessarily have to be a hero. I think you just, if you're a good person, you lived a good life, you get to go there and it's essentially a paradise. Whereas if you were a bad person, you get down to Tartarus where you're tortured for eternity.
Paradise. When the doctor remarks that Janet doesn't sound too happy about this, she simply says, "Yeah, sure," and hangs up. This would be the last time that the Foundation would hear from Janet for 7 months, despite attempts on their part to try and contact her themselves and track down her location. Finally, though, a recorded voicemail was received from her, who explains that she's been following their efforts to track her, and that she's now won the favor of some sort of seventh entity, expunged from the record by the Foundation. Janet says that everything she said up to this point was true, but after the wagon driver came, the truth became much more complicated.
Interesting.
She is willing to tell the Foundation exactly what happens when you die, but all she wants to do is talk to her husband. She threatens that if the Foundation's fear and hatred of civilians trumps their thirst for knowledge, she'll know, and then she'll never tell. She signs off by stating that she is the advisor to another expunged entity, meaning that Janet has been quite successful in this afterlife so far.
Sounds like it.
It seems pretty simple, right? Let the man talk to his deceased wife,
Right.
pump him full of some amnestics, and find out all you want to know about the afterlife. Sadly, it was not to be, and instead the Foundation sent an MTF to raid the home of Janet's husband after detecting an anomalous voicemail being sent there. Upon arrival, he threw his phone at a wall in an attempt to destroy it, and was shot dead by the MTF.
Wow, what the?
The anomalous voicemail was found on the phone, sent somehow by Janet.
That seems like it's a little extreme, right? Again, like he said, you can just, you know, give him some amnestics, remove his memory, he can go about his life. You know what I'm saying? But like, I could understand them rating him, you know, with MTFs because he would have, you know, he would have communicated with her And yeah, there might be some information they want. So I could understand them wanting to do that to an extent, but like him getting shot, that sounds a little extreme.
She told her husband that he's not crazy, and he's really receiving a voicemail from his deceased wife. It seems the entity that she's been advising in the afterlife can wield some powerful magic, and since the two of them are on friendly terms, the entity helps Janet out, allowing her to send this voicemail. She tells her husband that the MTF is on their way now, they don't take prisoners, and that he is about to die.
Well, and I guess, yeah, from her perspective, right? Like, if this is the afterlife, she's going to join him soon. So I guess, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
She explains that there is an afterlife. In fact, there are millions of afterlives, and she's in one of the preferable ones. It seems that once you die, any one of the million of afterlives can await you depending on your actions in that purgatorial state that Janet was in.
I was right.
She
There's a
says that she
purgatory.
can't say much about the journey after death, but that he's been preparing for it his whole life without realizing, and he should look back to his most important memories. She then provides some tips on making it to her. These tips are impressively cryptic, and personally remind me of the journey into the Dreamlands concocted by H.P. Lovecraft. The tips she gives include following the moon on the left, making it to the Valley of the Striders, and asking the three-faced tree where the spy went, and to not do anything to make anyone angry, including letting a Strider kill you if it wants to. This won't really harm you, and Janet speculates that it's their way of saying hello. Just as she's about to
Their way of saying hello is to step on you. Nice.
provide the most important tip, though, she realizes the MTF is at his door and tells him to smash the phone. She's got a powerful entity on her side, and he'll do what he can to help, because he believes in her husband too. True to her word, then, her husband did die, and presumably made it to join her. That would likely be the end of the story if her husband had successfully destroyed the phone and the voicemail, as Janet would probably never contact the Foundation again.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, the Foundation learned what we just did, and proceeded to initiate something called Operation Galahad.
This can't possibly have any kind of lasting negative effects. The Foundation was never done anything like that.
Continuing the Arthurian theme, Galahad, born in Corbinic, would be the knight who would finally set out to claim the Holy Grail successfully. Let's see what the Foundation has planned. As part of Operation Galahad, the Foundation forms a new MTF, Omega-16, Grail Knights. The members of the Grail Knights were hand-selected for their hand-to-hand combat abilities, skills of judgment, stamina, and more. They have dubbed the afterlife Corbinic, and the MTF is being sent in to navigate, map, and comprehend the location.
Do you imagine your training and everything leading up to like, okay, we're going to shoot you in the head now so you can go traverse the afterlife? That's what your job and your mission is as a group. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? I don't know about all that, brother.
None of the members of the MTF are actually aware that it's the afterlife, as they have not been given any of the 2922 documentation.
That would make sense. Of course they would withhold that. They would probably just be like, hey, you're getting ready to go under procedure, and like maybe knock them out and like euthanize them or something like that. So they wouldn't even know what's happening, and they would just wake up in whatever the afterlife is.
For them, it's simply a very important extra-dimensional location that is home to an enemy of the Foundation that needs to be captured. This is their primary goal, as she is stated to be a traitor to the Foundation who is actively working against them. This is, of course, a tricky goal, as Janet has powerful entities on her side, and the home field advantage.
It's weird to me that the Foundation would classify her as the enemy, right? I mean, like, I guess the question would be is like, what is their goal and why? You know, do they see it as a situation where she's dead and she has now a connection with some kind of powerful being And because of her information she knows about the Foundation, they feel like they're at risk for some reason. Because, like, I mean, there's any number of alternate dimensions and things that can happen that would put the Foundation at risk, right? And, like, how many people in the Foundation who have been a part of the Foundation have died and are in this afterlife or any number of afterlives that could also have information that could be a threat to them. You know what I'm saying? So what are you gonna do? You're gonna scour every possible infinite number of afterlives and go after all these people. You know, I don't know. It just seems a little strange while they're specifically targeting Janet. Like, unless it seems like there's a piece of information that's missing that maybe she has that they want or something. Maybe it's just the fact that she still has this connection and they want to get it back, that they're going after her. You know, I don't know.
As it were. MTF agents are sent in with no earthly gear whatsoever, forcing them to find or create their own equipment and tools. Moving on, the documentation for Operation Galahad says that agents will be sent to Kormanik through an experimental procedure in which they are placed into medically induced comas and use SCP-2922 to communicate. Sounds a little fishy for the Foundation, but okay.
So multiple people can be implanted with this thing too. It's not just one. So if that's the case, then yeah, they're not going after her to get this implant back.
So far, they've managed to detail only a couple different regions, and they acknowledge that the total space of Kormanik is unknown. They tell the MTF that humans inside of Kormanik believe it to be some form of afterlife, but whether or not it is unimportant. Gravity, air, and temperature are all similar to Earth, with generally unchanging weather and 3 moons. Upon arrival in Kormanik, an individual will awaken in a random part of the Great Desert, with no clothes or possessions. On one edge of the desert is a mountain range called the Valley of the Striders, found by following the leftmost moon for as long as possible. In the valley are the Striders, a dangerous native species, a nomadic society of humans, and an entity known as the Three-Faced Tree. In the center of the valley is Bogle Mountain, believed to be over 30 kilometers in height, which would make it a few times taller than Mount Everest.
Right.
At the top of the mountain, although it hasn't been directly observed, is rumored to be a castle where the Witch Queen of Bogle Mountain resides.
Interesting.
Winding through the valley is the River Tak, a river of organic grayish sludge, possibly a gigantic amoeba of some form.
Interesting.
Following the path of this river leads to a large cubic structure called the Marble Hall. The hall is several kilometers wide, and inside are thousands of humans in a perpetual orgy.
Okay.
Equally praised and feared by local human settlements, it is ruled by an entity known as the Elephant King, who actively seeks for humans to live in its hall for unknown reasons. Following the River Tak to its source finds the Chitin Sea, which is not really a sea at all. It is a massive biomass with a thin top layer of chitin, a polymer that makes up the exoskeletons of insects,
Right.
and deep layers of unidentified organs and liquefied tissue.
I'm good.
It seems that walking across the Chitin Sea is possible, but 5 agents have been lost so far due to the chitin cracking,
Yeah, I'm good.
and so it's advised to avoid it. In the desert is an entity called the Cold-Bound Hare, which resembles an Arctic hare 4 times the size of normal, but composed
Interesting.
entirely of snow. Once a year, for a period of 24 hours, this hare will travel to a nearby location called the Croaking Cave. The cave is of unknown size, maintains a constant 0 degrees Celsius, and averages 3 inches of snow across the interior. Inside are a number of mechanical constructs known as the Frogs That Spit Winter, each about a meter tall. Upon opening their mouths, a gaseous substance is released capable of freezing any substance to negative 20 degrees Celsius, accompanied by a highly compressed sound bite of a bullfrog croak.
Interesting.
Also living in the cave are around 100 humans, who have settled into a single village tended by an entity called the Flame Bearer, a marsupial organism resembling a kangaroo. Its pouch contains an indeterminable amount of fire that it can take out and hold in its forepaws, and it can
Sounds very
apparently run up
Promethean.
to 90 kilometers an hour. Next to the Croaking Cave are the Greenleaf Woods, populated mostly by evergreens, but was also the home of a unique elderly human called Father, who we'll get back to soon.
Okay.
We're also given information.
And this is all interesting, you know, detailing geography and places in this or various afterlives. And I guess the journey they, you know, this MTF group has got to go through to find her, but it also seems, I don't know, like what's the meaning behind all this extra information? I guess is would be my question. You know, does all this information have a purpose or a meaning? Like, it's cool and it's interesting because it's like building the world and lore, but like I am still more interested in why the SCP is so determined to go after, you know, this woman and have declared her an enemy of the state, so to speak.
On a bunch of other residents of
Just because she wanted to talk to her husband and they wouldn't let her, so she stopped communicating with him. That's the only information we know right now as to, you know, why the Foundation doesn't like her.
Korbanik, including Janet, who is marked as hostile, and her
Let me
husband.
rewind that.
It was also the home of a unique elderly human called Father, who we'll
Right.
get back to soon. We're also given information on a bunch of other residents of Korbanik, including Janet, who is marked as hostile, and her husband, whose location is unknown but likely separate from Janet. The Foundation.
So in Korbanik, she's been marked as hostile as well. Interesting.
Recommends finding him and using him as a hostage.
No. Okay. I guess the wording of that is like, has she been determined as hostile by the members of Korbanik, or is this just the SCP Foundation saying that, yeah, she's been determined as being hostile? Find her husband and use the husband as, you know, bait to get her out. Also, this art's pretty cool. This like zebra rhino thing and these giant like dinosaur giraffe looking creatures. It's pretty dope looking. I think it's more of the SCP though marking her as hostile and not the citizenry or, you know, people living in Korbanik deeming her as hostile.
The Striders are actually the gigantic primates that Janet first located.
Right, I kind of.
And MTF agents have found even larger ones, at least 3,000 meters in height.
Yikes.
They are
Big
peaceful
boys.
when unprovoked, often attacking humans gently, but if provoked, will make vocalizations that cause human flesh to petrify, or cause humans to teleport to an unknown area, or negate their healing factor.
Interesting. So it almost seems like the Striders are kind of like a filter or testing kind of situation to determine where individuals are supposed to go and maybe different places in the afterlife. You know, if they're kind and don't provoke or bother them, they might like gently kill them and let them, you know, I guess maybe that marks them in some kind of way, and then they can go on. Whereas if they're hostile to them in certain ways, they teleport them to different areas or just outright petrify them so that that's the rest of their existence.
Due to this, Striders are ignored if possible, but they will occasionally grab humans to feed the Witch Queen of Bogle Mountain.
Interesting.
The Witch Queen is also marked as hostile, and is the oldest of the Striders. She possesses reality-bending abilities, a harsh temperament, and a disdain for humans, to the point of merely speaking negatively of her while within the valley or desert will cause your flesh to petrify. If an agent is captured and fed to the Witch Queen, they are not to resist, as after 2 months of digestion, they will be defecated and their bodies will heal, although there will likely be deep psychological trauma.
Yeah.
The alternative,
being stuck in a giant ape-like creature's digestive system for 2 months does not sound like an enjoyable, you know, time. That's not a vacation, brother. You know what I'm saying? You know, what happens in the Witch Queen's digestive system stays in the Witch Queen's digestive system, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Is considered to be worse, however.
What's considered to be
Body to
worse?
resist, as after 2 months of digestion, they will be defecated and their bodies will heal, although there will likely be deep psychological trauma. The alternative is considered to be worse, however.
Yeah, I would say so.
The entity that is associating with Janet is known only as the Impenetrable, and is noted as a hostile reality bender resembling a massive spider.
The Impenetrable.
It is said to be the...
It's interesting that in a lot of SCPs I've been going through lately, there's been a lot of spider-like creatures. You know, Lotus and the AI. There was something else that was, you know, there's just been some spider-like stuff. The aerial arachnids, etc. And now this. Interesting.
seventh godlike being of a council of 8, but little else is known about it. Other trans-dimensional experiments done by the Foundation have stumbled across this entity, resulting in 52 deaths. Let's get to some transcripts of the MTF's activities in Corbinate. While exploring the River Tok, a group of humans piled onto one of the female agents and dragged her into the Marble Hall, tearing her apart with their hands.
Yikes.
Although the other agents are hesitant to go into the Marble Hall, the director insists they go retrieve her. The director then receives a call from the captured agent, who is drunk from the fountains of alcohol inside the hall, and who says that although it was really scary at first, this place is awesome. Residents of the hall continue to torture, eat, and fornicate with one another over and over, and she has no intention of leaving.
Sounds like some Drakari shit right there, dude. You know what I'm saying?
We don't hear anything more about her, so presumably she was left there. While poking through the River Tok, one agent gets grabbed by a strider and taken away, and the others find an elderly male, half buried in the sludge. They drag him to the shore and find that his body is covered in the sludge inside and out. Although he seems to be in great pain, the sludge is preventing him from screaming. After clearing him out, the man explains that he can't remember his name, can't remember who he was.
I bet this is Janet's
here,
husband.
and doesn't even think that he's dead. He does say, however, that underneath the Khitan Sea is an entire city, made of caverns, coral, bones, and people. Living down there are things that would make an anglerfish scream, and there's something called the Fisher King, another character in Arthurian legend charged with guarding the Holy Grail.
I'm good.
Who floats down there waiting for people so that it can devour them and never release them. It's apparently the god of the Khitan Sea, and everything down there brings it food. He also says that once you see it, you forget that you exist, and everything you were is replaced with looming dread, soon to be a pile of scattered memories and rotten meat.
Sounds similar to an Adashasha.
As a nice cherry on top,
Yep.
it resembles a giant eel.
Yep.
If that doesn't sound deeply familiar, check out my video on SCP-3000. While investigating the Croaking Cave, one agent gets attacked by a group of the mechanical frogs and can no longer move. While talking to the director, the agent gets approached by the flame bearer, and the next time the director hears from the agent, he's back outside of the cave. He says that the kangaroo had a flaming head, but he felt protected while near it. He heard it speak inside of his head, telling him that the fire will carry you home. The next thing he knew, he was back on his feet outside of the cave. In the Greenleaf Woods, which are unbelievably thick with trees, agents found a clearing where an elderly man was resting on top of a stone structure resembling a bed. The man was in pain and called out to the agents by name, telling them to come closer.
That doesn't sound like a trap.
Agents later agreed that it wasn't a compulsory effect, and they just felt wrong about leaving him, so they approached. With tears in his eyes, the old man told them about his kids and how proud he was of them. He had invited them all to the clearing today, but none of them had come, as they must have been busy. He began coughing a great amount, and although the team's medic tried to help him, the man died, telling the group thank you. Since this was the first instance they found of someone dying, it was worth noting, and one of the agents...
Yeah, what happens when you die in the afterlife? Like, is there an afterlife for the afterlife? Like, is this another, like, infinite cycle of things?
Asks how long this mission will take, as he wants to get back so he can talk with his kid. The director says they have no projected end date until they capture Janet. The final piece of Operation Galahad is a corrupted file, in which Janet has somehow hacked in to communicate. She says that the Foundation has been telling more lies, and that the experimental procedure is actually murder, as many of us likely guessed. Since the Foundation is actually killing these agents in order to send them in, there is no extraction procedure. Janet leaves off by saying to forget what's coming, and to enjoy what's left. So that's that. Korbanek has plenty of room to be expanded on as a rather fantastical location and unique concept of an afterlife. So we'll see what, if anything, authors do with it.
Yeah.
The central problem with SCP-2922, though, is how the Foundation dealt with Janet and her husband.
Exactly.
The Foundation is generally seen as cold and uncompassionate, holding the virtues of secrecy and global protection above all else, which would indeed dictate their actions in this case. However, it's unlikely they would be so short-sighted as to anger their only connection to an afterlife for such a petty reason.
And why even, like, even if she decides to cut off, you know, why they would deem her as a hostile person and try to hunt her down. Like, that's my biggest question about the story is, like, why would they do that? What, again, are they worried that she has some kind of information that she's going to pass on to other beings in the afterlife? But then it's like, how many people in the Foundation have died and are in this afterlife that could do the same, or any number of afterlives? You know what I mean? So it's like, it sounds strange. It sounds like there's definitely more going on that we don't know of yet. This almost sounds like it's like an introductory story to a canon that someone plans to expand on further, you know, because this was all kind of essentially this felt like a world building story, and the Foundation is going to continue sending more people into the afterlife after her. And they're going to build up on, you know, more of the beings there, you know, this council of gods, etc. Anyway, there's only a couple minutes left, and then I'll get my final thoughts going here.
At the time, perhaps they figured that Janet would be lost without them, and would continue to talk to them either way, but things didn't work out that way. Many more aspects of Korbanek will be examined and explained when I discuss the Three Moons Initiative, the major human organization within Korbanek.
Okay.
SCP-2922 is one of many interpretations of the afterlife within the SCP universe, and while it certainly isn't the most horrific, it is definitely imaginative.
Okay, so I mean, I guess there is more then. That makes sense. All right, we got a quote here. Got a pretty big quote, actually. Poggers. Look, I know you're very scared right now. I wish I could be there. Your dead wife is telling you you're about to die, and I know that scares you, especially since you're an atheist. But I assure you there is an afterlife. There are millions of afterlives. There's many different ones as there are different types of people. I'm in one of the preferable ones, and you can be here with me if you follow my path. There isn't much I can say about the journey without compromising the whole thing. But you've been preparing for this journey your whole life. You've been given instructions along the way. You just didn't know they were at the time. Look back at your most important memories. This is not hell or heaven or purgatory. This is the final exam. That's a pretty interesting way of putting it. This is the final exam. So yeah, interesting story. Like I said, this feels very much like a world building story, and I guess because, as he mentioned there at the end, there's at least one other part that is the Three Moons Initiative, which I guess that'll be the next video that I get into to see where this story goes. But yeah, I mean, as I stated, my biggest question is, why do the Foundation mark Janet as hostile? What are they really after? Does she have something else? It can't be the SCP that she has, the implant, because they've implanted other MTFs and sent them after her. So this is something that they can recreate and reproduce. Is it something to do with information? Does she know something that for some reason they're trying to get? And if so, what? And what does it matter? I don't know. Just the whole them deeming her as a hostile being and them willing to train an entire MTF, task force to then murder them to send them after her. It sounds a little extreme even for the Foundation, right? When essentially, this person is dead. So isn't that kind of like contained, right? Like, I mean, I guess there are stories of things from the afterlife coming back and messing around in their reality, right? But I don't know. It just seems a little strange. So, hey, what's up, Ryan? We're just finishing up a video here. We're getting ready to start another part of it. But yeah, that was SCP-2922. Links to be down below as always in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring Series channel. So if you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like. And if you enjoyed the content the Exploring Series puts out, be sure to hit that sub button on his channel if you have not done so already. If you'd like to join us as I'm doing these reactions live with my YouTube members, I would love to have you guys come in, hang out, and join our conversations before, during, and after the videos. There's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube members benefits and tiers that I offer. You can get early access videos, priority and encounter reaction requests, Discord only member channels, etc. So check all that stuff out. If you've been around the channel for a while and want to take your support to the next level, that is an option for you guys. But thank you guys for watching regardless. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. We'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day.